the future of Luis Diaz is once again uncertain because I'm sure you've seen online about how reports from Spain suggest that Barcelona will be making an approach to Liverpool. However, I've also seen reports say that Bayern Munich are now said to be in the race. So I wanted to ask you where we are with Luis Diaz. Can we expect maybe a transfer battle between Barcelona and Bayern Munich for his signature?
Yeah, again, by the way, just to touch on this, I mean, it again just speaks to the relentlessness of football, really, in that the transfer market will not stop despite what Liverpool are going through, and the staff are going through. So it is something we kind of have to acknowledge and face, is that, this period is for trading players, and that is ongoing, and there will be interesting players, there will be offers being put at Liverpool's door, and there's nothing they can do about that. They just have to kind of work through it, and as I say, bury themselves in that work, I guess, is almost a distraction from what's going on off the pitch. So, maybe I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, but it is something they will have to acknowledge and something they have to take on. So, I guess it's only right we kind of talk about it as well. And as you say, suggestions that Luis Diaz, that interest is ramping up. And yeah, it's an interesting one with that, in terms of, it's felt like all along in this story, really, that the likeliest club to kind of put up the correct money that would force Liverpool to sell would be Al Nassr. But I really must say, I get the impression, really, that maybe the player would much prefer to stay in Europe if possible, rather than go to Saudi at this moment, because I just think Al Nassr would have come in with the bid by now, if not. And the fact that we're still seeing this interest from European giants being trailed, I think says a lot about that would be the preference of the player, and he's not just given the green light to go to Saudi. So, I think from Liverpool's perspective, it's helpful to have multiple clubs interested, because it can push the price up. And if it was just Barcelona, you'd be extremely skeptical about their ability to provide the funds. But if they know they've got to compete with Bayern, they know they've got to compete with Saudi clubs, and maybe it'll sharpen their focus a little bit. But as I say, I certainly from my perspective, no sort of real updates in terms of where that's up to. I think we're hearing a lot of noise from the other side of things, from the Bayern side, from the Barca side. And I think Liverpool's position will be the same as it has been all summer, which is, okay, you might be interested, but turn up with the right amount of money, and then maybe we can have a discussion. And as I understand it at the moment, that hasn't happened yet.
Would you say at this stage, even though there's still plenty of the summer to go, would you say that Luis Diaz is probably much more likely to leave the club than to stay at the club, or is that situation just very volatile, I guess?
I think it's inherently risky making these predictions, really, because even if I said, okay, I think he's 10% likely to stay, well, that's still a 10% chance. And if he stays, then people will say, you maybe got it wrong. So, these things are tough to judge, really. And as I say, that is entirely contingent upon really what the other clubs do. And I do not know whether Bayern intend to offer a sum that would actually interest Liverpool. Similarly with Barcelona, whether they're even able to do that. And with Al Nassr, I just don't personally know whether the player is willing to go to Saudi or not. So, a lot of the doubts come from outside of Liverpool, really, and are very hard to kind of nail down in this moment. So, I as much as it's kind of sitting on the fence, I would have to say, don't really know which way this one's going to go. And it's up to the clubs to change Liverpool's mind about the kind of hands off that they've been issuing.